It was a cold, quiet night in the refugee zone. The wind outside howled like a hungry beast. The tents shook, and the snow kept falling. Inside a small tent near the edge of the camp, a human named Kyle sat alone, fixing an old medical scanner. Kyle was a former combat medic. He had seen war, blood, and death. But nothing made his heart beat fast anymore. Not until tonight. Suddenly, his translator device beeped. A soft, broken voice came through. Please. Help. She's shaking. My mom won't stop. Kyle froze. The voice sounded like a child. Weak, scared, and desperate. He grabbed his coat and stepped outside. The cold slapped his face. The night was dark, only lit by the red lights on top of the tents. He looked around, confused. Then he saw her. A small alien girl stood at the edge of the camp. Her skin was pale blue, and her eyes were full of tears. She wore nothing but a thin, torn cloth. Snowflakes landed on her tiny shoulders, and her feet were bare. Are you the one who called me? Kyle asked, kneeling down. She nodded fast, her teeth chattering. Please. My mom is dying. She's shaking and burning inside. No one will help us. Kyle looked around. None of the other aliens came near her. They acted like she didn't exist. What species are you? He asked gently. Valeri, she whispered. My name is Lura. Kyle had read about the Valeri. Sensitive to cold. Lived in deep forests. Not many survived the war. Where is your mom? He asked. Lura pointed toward the dark forest outside the camp. This way. Please hurry. Kyle knew it was dangerous to leave the camp at night. But something about this girl, her eyes, they reminded him of his sister long ago. Without another word, he took his medkit and followed her. They walked through thick snow. Lura moved fast, even with her tiny feet freezing. Kyle noticed she never cried for herself. Only for her mother. Why? Didn't the others help you? He asked while climbing over a fallen tree. They said we were cursed, Lura answered. They told us to leave the camp. We had no place to go. Kyle clenched his jaw. He hated cowards who left the weak to suffer. After nearly 30 minutes, they reached a small cave hidden by bushes and rocks. Lura crawled inside. Kyle followed, using his flashlight to see there. Lying on the cold stone floor was a woman. Her skin was glowing, faint blue veins pulsing under it. Her eyes were shut, and her body shook like she was being shocked by lightning. Kyle rushed to her side. He checked her pulse. Fast, too fast. Mom! Lura cried, holding her hand. Please wake up. Kyle placed a scanner over her chest. The device showed strange readings. Her body temperature was way too high. Organs were under stress. Something unnatural was happening inside her. She's been poisoned, Kyle muttered. This isn't a fever. This is something else. He opened his medkit and injected a stabilizer. Her shaking slowed a little. But then her eyes opened and locked onto his double quotes. Help. My daughter, she whispered, barely breathing. They're coming. Double quote. Who's coming? Kyle asked, but she passed out. Lura's tiny hand gripped Kyle's arm. Can you fix her? Please. You're the only one who came. Kyle looked at the woman, then back at the scared child. I'll do everything I can, he said. Suddenly, a sound echoed outside the cave. Crunch, crunch. Heavy footsteps on snow. Kyle quickly turned off the flashlight. Stay quiet, he whispered. To Lura, they listened. The footsteps stopped right outside the cave. Kyle's heart pounded. He slowly reached for the stun baton in his belt. Whoever was out there wasn't here to help. The cave fell silent. Outside, snow crunched beneath heavy feet. Someone or something was just standing there, waiting. Kyle held his breath. He could hear Lura's quiet sobs beside him, trying to hold back tears. The shaking from her mother's body had returned, stronger now. The floor beneath them almost trembled with her spasms. Then, a hand reached into the cave. Not human. 3 long fingers, sharp and black, touched the stone floor, feeling around slowly. As if it could smell them, even in the dark, Kyle stayed. Perfectly still, the alien mother's eyes snapped open, and this time, they were glowing. Kyle grabbed his stun baton and activated it with a soft buzz. The glowing blue tip lit the cave in a dim light. The hand paused, then disappeared. Footsteps moved away slowly. Whoever it was didn't go far. Kyle exhaled. "They're not gone," he whispered. "Just waiting." Lura hugged her mother's body tightly. "She's getting worse," she cried. "She's burning again." Kyle placed the scanner back on the woman's chest. The screen flashed red. "Warning, bioheat rising uncontrollably. Toxin identified, unknown. Tissue breakdown, stage 2. He cursed under his breath. What did they inject her with? Lura looked up. They said she was infected. That she saw something she shouldn't have. That she's dangerous. Who? Are they? The camp guards, and others from the woods. She tried to hide me, but they found us. Kyle felt something cold in his chest. He had seen this kind of pattern before: silent weapons, secret experiments. Things the war had buried. This wasn't just a fever. Someone had done this to her. I need to get her out of here, he said. If we stay, they'll come back. But where will we go? Lura asked. There's an old outpost, about 2 hills east of here. It's abandoned, but it might have working med tech. He wrapped the mother in a thermal blanket, then lifted her carefully. She was light, but her body twitched like something was fighting inside her. He looked at Lura. Stay close to me. Don't make a sound. The storm outside had slowed, but the forest was deathly quiet. Every tree looked like it could be hiding something. Every shadow whispered. Kyle's boots crunched softly through the snow. He carried the mother with both arms. Lura followed beside him, her tiny legs struggling to keep up. After nearly an hour, the trees parted, and Kyle saw a broken metal tower sticking out of the ground. The old science station. We made it, he whispered. He scanned the entry pad, still powered. He entered a universal code. The door hissed open. Inside was cold, dark, and covered in dust. Shelves full of broken tools. Glass containers holding dead samples. One table had a skeleton with a melted mask still stuck to its face. Kyle found a cot and laid the mother down. He started powering up the med-lab. The scanners whirred to life. Blue light washed over her glowing skin. Her body trembled harder. Her mouth opened, but instead of a scream, a sound like multiple voices came out at once. Kyle stepped back. What the hell? The med scanner beeped rapidly. Subject is merging with unknown cellular entity. Neurological takeover. 32%. 35%. 37%. She's not just poisoned, Kyle muttered. She's transforming. Lura stared at her mother, her eyes wide with fear. Fix her, please. I don't know if I can, Kyle said softly. But I'll try. He activated the emergency nanobot injection. A small tube slid into the mother's neck. Her body arched, then collapsed. Still. Everything went quiet. Too quiet. Then. The med scanner shut down. The lights went dark. The station lost power. Then came a whisper from outside the metal walls. Found you. The lights were gone. The machines were dead. And the only sound left was breathing. Not Kyle's, not Lura's. Something or someone was breathing. Just outside the wall, Kyle grabbed the emergency light and turned it on. A soft yellow glow filled the dark lab. Lura was crouched beside her mother, shivering, eyes locked on the door. The mother's body was motionless, but glowing veins still pulsed under her skin. Then a loud clang echoed through the base. Metal hitting metal. Kyle turned sharply. Another clang, then another. Someone was trying to break in. Kyle stood up, heart pounding. "Lura, get under the table. Don't move." No sound. She obeyed at once. He rushed to the door, looking at the backup monitor beside it. The screen flickered on then off. But for a second, it showed a figure outside. Not human. It wore ragged armor. Its face was covered in a dark mask. Behind it were 3 more, all carrying weapons. These were not refugees. These were hunters, and they were after the Valari woman. Kyle locked the entrance, but he knew it wouldn't hold long. This place was too old, too damaged. Suddenly, the mother gasped. Kyle ran back to her. Her eyes opened again, glowing brighter than before. Her skin had turned almost white blue, and her breath came in fast, painful waves. "You have to leave," she said with 2 voices, one her own and one not. "Who are they?" Kyle asked. She shook her head. "They don't want a cure. They want silence. I saw their test. I lived. I wasn't supposed to." "What test?" "They made a weapon," she whispered. "A living one. It needs hosts. I was the first." Kyle stepped back, eyes wide. "You're saying you're infected with a weapon?" "No," she said. "I am the weapon now." Before Kyle could speak, the station door exploded open. Smoke and sparks filled the hallway. The hunters stormed in. Kyle pulled out his stun baton and fired the electric tip at the first intruder. It struck the hunter's chest, throwing him back. "Into the wall, stay back," Kyle shouted. Another hunter raised his rifle, but before he could fire, the Valari mother rose from the bed. Her body now hovered above the ground. Her eyes were fully golden. Her hair floated like it was underwater, and from her skin, a strange light began to shine. "Leave my daughter," she said, voice like thunder. The hunters hesitated. One dropped his weapon and fled, but another fired. The blast hit her shoulder, but instead of falling, she absorbed the energy. The wound closed in seconds. Kyle stood frozen. She was no longer just a patient. She was something more. The mother lifted her hand. A wave of energy blasted from her fingers, knocking the remaining hunters off their feet and out the door. Then her legs gave out, and she fell back to the floor. Kyle rushed to her side. "What just happened? What are you?" She looked at Lura. "I'm still her mother. That's all that matters." Kyle scanned her again. "Your cells are changing fast. You won't survive this." "I know," she whispered, "but you can save her." He looked down at Lura, hiding behind a table, clutching her mother's scarf. "Take her," the mother said. "Run, while you still can." Asterisk. The lab stank of smoke and fear. Sparks popped from the broken ceiling. The metal door lay twisted on the floor. The walls were burned black where the alien mother's energy had exploded. But the worst thing was the silence. No more footsteps. No more hunters. Just silence. Kyle stood in the center of it all, his stun baton still buzzing weakly in his hand. Lura peeked out from under the table, her small body shaking. But not from cold, this time. It was the first time she had seen her mother use that power. The Valari woman lay on the ground, glowing faintly. Her skin was cracked where the light had burned through. Her breathing was slow, shallow. Her eyes were half closed. Kyle knelt beside her, opened his scanner again, and checked the readings. Warning: host cell structure unstable. Core temperature dropping. Neural link severed. She's fading, Kyle whispered. Her body's breaking down from the inside. Lura ran to her mother's side and held her hand tight. "Don't go, Mama, please." The mother's lips moved, barely. "Take her and go, before more come." Kyle looked around. This place was no longer safe. But they couldn't survive outside, not with her like this. He stood up and began searching through the storage rooms. Deeper inside the broken lab, Kyle found something strange. Glass tubes filled with green liquid. Inside them floated small, shapeless lumps. He wiped the label clean on one of the tanks. Project Recall Test Batch 07A. Failed. What the hell is this? He whispered. There were dozens of tanks, some broken, some intact. Scattered files on the floor. He picked one up and read a part of the report. Subject shows rapid genetic adaptation. Valori DNA accepts integration, but control is lost after 72 hours. Results unstable. Memory loss. Rage episodes. Recommendation. Termination. Kyle's heart sank. They were experimenting on the Valari, using them as hosts for something dangerous. He rushed back to the others. She wasn't sick, he told Lura. They did this to her. She was part of something horrible. Lura looked up confused. Can you fix her now? I don't know, Kyle said. But I'll try again. I need to buy her time. He connected the remaining power core to a medical pod. The machine groaned but slowly turned on. He lifted the mother's body inside, locked the lid, and set it to cell stabilization. The machine beeped and began its work. Lura sat beside the pod, staring through the glass, whispering softly in her own language. Kyle watched her, then turned to check the station's sensors. His blood froze. A large heat signature was moving toward them. Fast. Too big to be a person. Too quiet to be a group. And worse, it was not alive. The machine beeped once. Then it stopped. No lights, no sound. Just silence inside the pod. Kyle stared at the glass, his heart thudding like a hammer in his chest. Inside, the Valari mother wasn't moving. Her body floated, still and pale, inside. The glowing liquid, the pulsing veins had faded. Her skin looked almost normal, too normal. Kyle rushed to the side panel, smacked the screen, and waited. Life signs: 0 neurological activity, none time of death, 341 galactic standard. Double quotes, no. He whispered. Lura ran over. What happened? Kyle swallowed hard. She's gone. The words felt like sharp stones in his throat. Lura's face froze. She shook her head, backed away, and whispered, No. She said she'd stay with me. She placed her hand on the glass. Mama? No answer, only her small reflection stared. Back, then. The pod shook. Just once. Then, again stronger. Kyle stepped back. Get behind me. Lura didn't move. She stared at her mother's face. And that's when the eyes opened, golden, bright, alive. Something was wrong. She didn't blink, didn't move. Her lips didn't open, but her voice echoed in the room. He is still coming. Kyle pulled Lura behind him. Who's coming? What is he? No answer. The pod suddenly hissed. The lid opened. Steam poured out. The Valari mother slowly floated upward and stepped out, her feet never touching the floor. Kyle scanned her. No pulse, no heat, no human signs left, but she looked straight at him. You can't stop him, but you can run. Kyle shook his head. You're alive. We can escape together. She walked past him, her eyes glowing like fire. No, I'm no longer what you call alive. I remember his face now. The one who did this, and I will not run. Lura stared in awe. Mama? For the first time, her mother smiled, a real smile, but her voice remained wrong, like someone or something was still inside her. Take her far from here, human. She said, she still has a future. I don't. Suddenly, the station walls shuddered. Something had arrived outside. Heavy. Cold. Too massive to be a normal life form. Kyle looked at the scanner screen, one giant heat signature, like a walking engine. He turned to the Valari mother. What is it? He asked. She answered simply, the one who made me. Asterisk. The ground trembled like a giant's heartbeat. Metal walls moaned. Ceiling bolts cracked. Then boom. A massive shadow passed over the lab's only window, blocking out even the emergency lights. Kyle grabbed Lura and pulled her behind the supply crates. Don't make a sound, he whispered. Lura's eyes were wide with fear. Is that him? Kyle nodded once. I think so. Suddenly, the front wall of the lab peeled open like paper. Not exploded, peeled, as if something with claws had calmly torn it apart. Through the smoke, a shape appeared, tall as a house. Its body was half machine, half flesh. Glowing wires wrapped around its arms. Tubes filled with blue liquid pulsed across its chest, where a face should have been only a mask. Smooth, round, and covered in blinking lights. And then, it spoke, not through a mouth, but through the walls themselves. Subject 01 detected, host body functioning, mission, retrieve or terminate. The Valerie mother stepped forward, standing between the monster and her daughter. Her eyes burned bright. Her hair floated again, alive with energy. I'm not your subject anymore, she said. I remember what you did, what you stole from me. You are property of Project Recall. Then come and take me. The machine beast raised one giant arm. It began to glow, building power. Kyle saw it and shouted, "Get down!" The beam fired, but hit a glowing wall of energy in front of the mother. She was shielding them. Her arms trembled. Blood, if that's what it still was, dripped from her nose. Kyle stood and pulled out his last energy grenade. This won't stop him, he muttered, but maybe it'll buy us seconds. He tossed the grenade toward the monster. It exploded in white light, blinding everyone. Run! He yelled to Lura, but Lura didn't move. She was crying, screaming, "No, I won't leave her again." The mother turned, her voice soft now. "Lura, I love you. And love is stronger than anything they ever made me." Kyle pulled the girl back, holding her tight. "I'm sorry," the mother whispered. Then she closed her eyes, and everything exploded. When Kyle opened his eyes, they were lying in the snow outside the ruined lab. Smoke rose from the crater where the building had been. Nothing remained. No machine. No mother. Only silence. Lura stood up slowly. Her face was wet, not from snow, but from tears. "She's really gone," she said. Kyle knelt beside her. "She saved us. She chose you, even over herself." Lura stared into the smoke, then whispered, "She's still with me. I can feel it." Kyle looked up at the dark sky for a moment. He thought he saw golden light flicker in the clouds. 3 days had passed. The snow had stopped falling. But inside Kyle's heart, a storm still raged. He stood on the cliff where the lab once stood, now just ash and broken steel buried in ice. Beside him, Lura sat quietly, holding her mother's scarf close to her chest. She hadn't spoken since the explosion. Until now. "She's not really gone," Lura whispered. Kyle looked at her. "You believe that?" She said love was stronger than anything they made her. "And I still feel her in me, like a warm voice when I close my eyes." Kyle wanted to believe it too. He had seen many people die in war. But this time, it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a beginning. Back at the refugee camp, things had changed. The guards no longer ignored Lura. The others who once called her cursed now lowered their heads in shame when they saw her. Some even left food outside her tent without a word. But Lura didn't care for their guilt. She only followed one person now, Kyle. He had become her protector, her teacher, and in many ways, the father she never had. One night, as Kyle sat by the fire, fixing his broken med scanner, Lura came up beside him. "Can you teach me what you do?" she asked. He smiled. "Medical work?" "No," she said, placing a small stone on the scanner. "How to save people like you saved her." Kyle paused. His hand froze mid-repair. He looked at the child, not afraid anymore, not broken, just determined. "You sure?" he asked gently. Lura nodded. "I want to make people better. Even when it hurts, even when it's scary." He reached into his bag and pulled out an old data pad. "All right then, lesson 1. Always listen before you speak." That's what saves lives. She smiled her mother's smile. And for the first time since the cave, Kyle didn't feel like a soldier anymore. He felt like something better. Weeks later, as spring began to melt the snow, Kyle and Laura left the refugee camp. They walked side by side, heading toward the mountains where Kyle said there was a real medical center that needed people. But just before they disappeared into the distance, Laura turned around. She looked at the sky. For a brief second, the clouds above shimmered gold. She whispered, "Thank you, Mama." And then they walked on toward a future built not by machines, not by weapons, but by love. And one brave human who refused to walk away.